Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG from a new location, but in the same area, if that makes any sense. I'm still on vacay, so I've got a really jacked up rig, but still want to give you the news of all the spoilers that are coming out. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. As I get back, I'll show you some videos of where I went. You might be interested in that, or if not, then whatever. It's fine. So, without further ado, since you guys are 12 hours behind me, hint, hint on where I am, let's look at what you guys have going on for the end of the second. So, our first leak from Duskmourn today is going to be split up. 2 white and 1 for a sorcery. You get to choose one, destroy all tapped creatures or destroy all untapped creatures. This is interesting. This might be a 3-mana Wrath. I mean, it is a 3-mana Wrath, but depending how your opponent plays, you could get all the creatures or none of the creatures. But I think what's important here is you get to choose which creatures you want. If you're taking the beat down and really don't like it, you can actually play creatures on your turn, untapped, and then destroy all the tapped creatures that's been slapping you in the face for the last couple turns. Especially if you got creatures on defense. So this is really cool. I think this is going to bring a whole new, I don't know how to put it, perspective to board wipes. Only because you choose one or the other and not both, and it's only 3 mana. I think this will be very popular, and I'm kind of surprised it's not a mythic. But hey, power creep's the thing, and here we are. So, moving on, next we have the common land cycle for this set, which I think is pretty interesting. So what we have are lands that come to play tapped unless a player has 13 or less life. Get it? 13, unlucky number, horror stories, bump. Anyway, so what's cool about this is, late in the game, normally when you're getting the snot beat out of you, you want a land or do land, it comes into play on tap, not a land that's like, 2 or less, it comes in untap, fast lands, slow lands, whatever. But here's the downside of these and why they're commons. You'll notice they're lands. You can't fetch these, which means I really believe these don't have a whole lot of place anywhere because they are not fetchable. For any land to come out in a land cycle and it be really playable, they have to have island, forest, plains, yada, 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 so that we can fetch them. This doesn't have the basic moniker, so we could fetch it with like maybe a Fabled Passage. That would be cool if this was a basic land, but then again, it would also be fetchable because it would then be an island, a swamp, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, they're cool. I think they're going to be really nice and limited. Unfortunately, they probably won't see much play past that, and that's kind of the shame because I got to admit, the art on these lands, they're pretty sweet. Everything from Lakeside Shack, the Lighthouse, the Carnival, these are all sweet pictures, and I do like them all. And we're getting one for all the colors. So we've got 10 of them. We got Bleeding Woods, which that one could have been better. And what's better than an etched cornfield than obviously crop circles because aliens, horror, And of course it'd be white-green because I guess corn is green and white. I don't know. Anyway, we have the Neglected Manor, which is also pretty sweet. And then we have the Strangled Cemetery. These, whoever drew all the art on these, which there's several people, don't get me wrong, I think these could have been some art for some really sweet rare lands, unfortunately. But sometimes uncommons get love too. And then we got the rest here. We got Murky Sewer, Razor Top Gorge. That could have been better. Abandoned Campground. That's sweet. And then we get back into our actual leaks again with the Glimmer Seeker. 1 white and 2 for this 3/3. It has survival, meaning at the beginning of your second main phase, if it is tapped, you get to draw a card if you control a Glimmer creature. If you don't control a Glimmer creature, you get a 1/1 white Glimmer enchantment creature token. So here's another sweet thing. We talked about enchantments being a deck, especially with Commander. Having this in play in your Commander deck with enchantments means that at the end of your turn, if you run out of juice, you're gonna you're gonna get an enchantment for free, which is gonna let you draw a card. Normally, off of when enchantments come into play, kind of things. Although, since this is not an enchantment itself, it might be a liability in that deck. So, we'll have to wait and see, but there's always hope, right? There's a glimmer of hope. Anyway, moving on. All right, the next group of cards we have here, we have the Patched Plaything starting at the left. White and 2 for an artifact creature toy. It is a 4/3 for 3 and white with double strike, which is something. But it enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it if you cast it from your hand, which is interesting. So basically, for 3 mana, you get a 2/1 with double strike for 3 mana, which isn't terribly bad. But if you pull the counters off this thing's going to be house. So yeah. And I'm sure there might be some shenanigans somewhere to make this thing playable. Next we have in blue, the Unwilling Vessel. Blue and 2 for this 3/2 Vigi. It has Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, put a possession counter on Unwilling Vessel. Okay, so you got to do both. Whenever the enchantment you control enters, and so it's one or the other. Never mind. When Unwilling Vessel dies, create a XX blue spirit creature token where X is the number of counters on Unwilling Vessel. This seems like the perfect card to pair that 3 mana white Glimmer Seeker we just saw for limited. Anyway. Next, we're back to the enchantment creatures. We have the Fear of Failed Tests. Blue and 4 for a 2/7. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw that many cards. I mean, this is fine. Good for limited. Probably as far as it's going to go, but if you put this thing in a butt fight deck, you're probably going to lose. But it would be funny if you slap somebody with this thing for 7 and draw 7 cards. Just pointing it out. Next, we have Fear of Isolation in blue. Blue and 1 for this 2/3. Add additional cost of this spell. Return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. And for 2 mana, you get a 2/3 flyer. I mean, this seems okay. Blue, not known for their creatures, may not like this. I mean, it's going to depend on what's on the battlefield. When you cast this, it's a good way to get around removal, like enchantment removal or anything that locks your creature down as a permanent. Because you can pick the creature up, and the permanent normally goes to the graveyard if it's an enchantment or whatever. Now, the downside of this, if you play it on turn 2, you're picking a land up. Now you're a whole land behind, which in limited might be okay, but probably not so much. But with that said, a 2/3 for 2 that flies is pretty sweet. It is an enchantment. Has a lot going for it. So I'm going to regale myself to the fact that there's some synergy somewhere with this, which are going to make this thing pretty sweet in a limited format. And maybe standard, depending on what we end up with. We're going to have to wait and see. Well, I take that back. So in standard, the enchantment creatures we have that when they die, they come back into play as enchantments. You can literally play this, pick that enchantment back up since it's no longer a creature, put it back into play as a creature again. That sounds actually pretty good. Also sounds pretty sweet and limited, not gonna lie. But hey, that's just me talking. Moving on. Next, we have a group here. We have the Infernal Phantom on the left. Red and 3 for a 2/3 with Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, Infernal Phantom gets +2/+0 to end a turn. Whenever it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. That is, at best, a limited card. It's doing a whole lot of things. At the same time, it's not doing a whole lot of things. But anyway, next we have the Undead Sprinter. Red and black for a 2/2 trample haste. You may cast Undead Sprinter from your graveyard if a non-zombie creature died this turn. If you do, Undead Sprinter enters with +1/+1 counter on it. So here's something that keeps coming back. As long as your opponent's creatures are dying, and it comes back for 2 mana as a 3/3 with haste and trample. This seems really good. I don't know if there's enough cards yet to make this a thing, but I mean, there's possibilities here. There are definitely possibilities. All right, we got some rooms now. Let's cock our heads sideways and get to reading. We start off with the Mirror Room for a blue and 2. Whenever you unlock this door, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. except it's a reflection in addition to its other creature types. Already pretty cool for 3. Then if you open the second door, Fractured Realm for 2 blue and 5. If a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. That is really sweet. Wow. This card is going straight into all the commander decks because you can copy anything you want, and then later you get ability triggers to double up on all your stuff. I mean, yeah, it's 7 mana, but at some point, do you really care in Commander? Like, you're going to have 7 mana. Plus, the ability to just clone anything on the battlefield and make a token is amazing. Unfortunately, it does say that you control, so it could be a dead card in your hand if you don't have creatures. We're going to have to wait and see. I mean, it is a mythic, but I'm going to think this card is going to be pretty good. Just saying. Next, we have another room. We have the Smoky Lounge. This one's a 2-color one. First one of those we've seen. A red and 2 at the beginning of your first main phase. Add 2 red. Spend this mana only to cast room spells and unlock doors. Wow, is that good in red? Holy cow. I mean, does this mean we're going to get a room deck? And then finally on the other side, we have the Misty Saloon for a blue and 3. Whenever you unlock this door, create a XX blue spirit creature token with flying, where X is the number of unlocked doors among rooms you control. So I think what's cool about these rooms is you can cast either side first and then the other one. So, for example, on the Smoky Lounge, let's say you cast Smoky Lounge first and then you do Misty Saloon. That counts as 2 doors, so you're going to get a 2/2. If you wanted to do Misty Saloon first because you need a creature, you could, and then do Smoky Lounge later. Like with the other one here, Mirror Room and Fractured Realm. You could cast Fractured Realm first and then do Mirrored Room later. It does make that a 7 drop instead of a 3, but hey, is what it is, right? Everything said and done, these room cards I think are going to be pretty sweet. And if they take off, we might see more of them in the future. Because they seem pretty powerful. They seem relatively easy to use, and people seem to like them. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? We're just going to have to wait and see what's behind door number 1. Da-da-da. So, with that said, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I do appreciate it. Until next time, be kind, and I hope to see you across from the game table. All right, we'll get that bathing suit on, and let's go swim.